Welcome to the Good Divorce Show, where we can help you learn how to navigate the journey of divorce with less conflict, less debt, and equip you not to just get divorced, but also learn how to be divorced. Your host, Certified Divorce Coach Karen McNenny, shares her wealth of knowledge, gets advice from other relationship experts, and interviews couples who learn how to have a good divorce, so you can too. Now here's your host, Karen.
Hello, listeners. I'm Karen McNenny, your Good Divorce Coach. Thanks so much for joining me here on the Good Divorce Show, where we help you find your way towards a more dignified divorce with less debt, less destruction, and maybe even leave you with a smile on your face and some relief. Today, I'm talking with Jen Schimbeno. She is a CDFA, which stands for Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. We're going to tell you a little bit more about that specific skill set. She has over a decade of experience in financial planning with a focus on supporting individuals, businesses, and families. But her focus is on helping clients modify behaviors to help them course correct their financial paths. Additionally, Jen has found a passion for supporting families going through divorce and restructuring. She is a trained mediator and an accredited financial neutral for the collaborative divorce process. We're also going to dive into that, which is a wonderful resource for our families. Jen is also the co-founder of Parent Team, an online resource and course for co-parents in helping them navigate keeping their kids out of the middle. And most parents are all committed to that. Jen and her business partner, Brandon, consult with parents all over the world and guiding them through co-parenting skills and how to navigate financial decisions to best support children both during and after the divorce is finalized. Through her work and co-creation of Parent Team, Jen has been awarded opportunities to train and educate other professionals on how to best support families who are navigating divorce. I am one of those professionals who have benefited from the resources and research that Jen and Brandon have put together through the Parent Team effort. Additionally, Jen is on the board of directors for the Montana Collaborative Professionals Association and is passionate about working closely with mediators, mental health clinicians, and attorneys. Welcome to the Good Divorce Show, Jen Schimbeno.
Thank you so much. No, I feel honored to be here.
Delighted to have you here sharing your wisdom. I want to start with just a little bit of education, and I'm actually going to push forward a quick overview about the Parent Team. For our busy parents and professionals who might not get to the end of the podcast, we'll give you the full enchilada on that. But just highlight right now, if you would, Jen, where people can find this collection of resources.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. They just go to parentteam.com, so parent and then team.com. And we recently had somebody explain our website as it felt like it was giving them a hug and just such a helpful place to land in the midst of navigating divorce. So yeah, go check it out and I hope you feel that warm hug, but then also incredible resources that I think really have been identified from co-parents saying it's lessened our anxiety, it's helped be more mindful of the things that we're doing and decisions we're making, whether it's, pre-divorce, during or post, and just those supports that so many of co-parents are looking for, but just not really sure where to find them. So
Where to begin? You have a wonderful parenting guide there. In fact, I keep it right here at my desk at all times for those who might have the visual, keeping your kids out of the middle. It's this beautiful workbook with self-guided videos. So if you don't have a professional such as Jen or myself or her partner Brandon to guide you through it, you can actually take yourself and your co-parent on a journey that's going to be really helpful. There's also a new guide on how to write your parenting plan and ask you and your co-parent all the questions that you should be considering as you move into a restructured two-parent home. So do check it out. I highly recommend it.
yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. I think with the parenting plan guide too, there's so many people that have said, gosh, I'm always feeling concerned. Have I thought of everything? Or, what are we not thinking of? Or what are the things that people often miss? And we've just had tremendous feedback that it's just so incredibly helpful, whether you're doing the kitchen table method or you are working with an attorney. It's one of those resources that people look back and they're like, I don't know how I could have done this process without this tool. So yeah, go check it out. And we're happy to support co-parents and families any way that we can.
Wonderful. We'll come back to that, listeners, so that you are sure to have those resources, and we'll make sure they're in the show notes as well. I want to go back and give a little bit of context as to who you are, Jen, all of these certifications and the expertise that you bring to the conversation of divorce. We spend a lot of time on our show talking about the kids, the family, the divorce process, but one of the lightning rods, if you will, in divorce is finance. Tell us about the CDFA designation and why it matters and how it supports families going through divorce.
Yeah, so ironically, it was not something that was even on my radar. I came into this work, there was a group of attorneys that had approached me here in my hometown of Bozeman, and they were looking for a financial neutral for the collaborative process. And so I'm always intrigued to be surrounded by other people that I just think a lot of in other professional capacities. And that's how I found myself in this line of work. And through that, then learning about the CDFA, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, and think that there's so many times where when people are navigating divorce, there's ability to potentially overcomplicate situations, but then there's also times where on paper it's all fine, but then when you go to take that action, it doesn't work like it was written on paper. So for example, if you're dividing certain assets like a 401k, there's other things that are required in which to do that, where a lot of what we're learning within that CDFA program is the mechanics, the logistics of what requirements are there to split a 401k account? What other benefits do you have when you're looking at pulling retirement funds without taking penalties? And so the logistics and the mechanics of a lot of the financial pieces within a divorce. And I think also having a deeper lens of how financials are impacted by divorce through this training and program also opens this whole other realm of creativity, of solutions on how to get to agreements when you're talking about property settlements. So it's such a deep dive and a specialty that I think can really either complement attorneys' efforts because they're not trained in these things, just as I'm not trained in family law specifically. So it's being able to bring two different professionals together to really enhance the outcomes for co-parents and families.
Yes, as you're chatting, I have this image of like a teeter-totter with both parents on both ends. And the goal is that we send both parents away financially whole, because that's in the best interest of the children. And folks like Jen and I always say, my client is actually your children. That's who I work for.
Yeah.
And we're going to help you to better serve them as a parent through their life, which also means financially. And
Yeah.
the idea of the logistics and the mechanics, it's not just take this lump of money and put it here and this lump of money there and divide it. You talk about retirement as something that needs to be divided, acquisitioned, et cetera. And most of us don't realize the tax implications, or as you say, the mechanics and the logistics. And this lump of money maybe was taxed before it went into the account, but it might be something else that gets taxed when it comes out. And I sense that there's some listeners today who are like, wait a minute, I don't even know what you're talking about. So can
Yeah.
you give us just a little example and a taste of what you would be looking at just around retirement accounts in general and the things to pay attention to?
Yeah. So let's say that we're looking at the property statement and there's a couple of different retirement accounts. And let's say that they've got, they both have a 401 and the other one doesn't. And we won't overcomplicate it, but so one has a Roth IRA and the other one doesn't. Well, if you were to just split those and call it good and 50-50, and well, then one of them is going to miss out on the benefits of that Roth IRA when you're pulling that money out, like you were just saying, Karen. When you go to retire, you've already paid tax on those dollars. So when those come out, there's no tax that you're paying when you're pulling those at age of retirement. And so therefore, when you're looking at the balance sheet of just the retirement assets, it's not dollar for dollar necessarily when you're looking at then when you're pulling those. So that needs to be taken into consideration is one piece. Or, and there's other things that can get a bit complicated, especially in the environment we're in right now, where people are coming off a time where interest rates have been incredibly low, and now they're not where they were, and probably will never be back to where they were at
8.2%.
Yeah. And so, people are wanting to really hold on to those homes, but then it puts a complexity then when, looking at selling, and then what type of benefit you can have when you go to sell it, and how much you're going to pay on that gain upon selling of the house. So there's a number of ways which it's not just like a dollar for dollar, and those tax implications need to be thought through. Also, taking that caveat of none of us have that crystal ball. If you ask anyone, are taxes going to go up or down? Most people will say it's likely that they will. And so we can be conservative in the way that we approach things, but also knowing that you can't plan for all things, because some situations just may take a different turn. But I think at least having the education and making the best decision that you can with having those foundational pieces of information, then you can make a more competent decision when given that information.
So you bring up real estate, retirement accounts are kind of a big complicated noodle in unraveling of a marriage, but so is real estate. And it is often one of our largest assets. And I guess my question to you is how families can get it wrong, if you will, or the lens of scarcity versus abundance, and how we use our resources through the divorce process, and how we kind of lose resources, financial resources, during a misguided process. Any stories come to mind around that specific topic?
Yeah, I mean, and this can happen in so many different facets when you think of making decisions financially, or even when you're thinking about the parenting plan too. But I think so many times it's people have this thought of wanting to be right, to where the logic goes out the window. And so there's a situation where they were trying to figure out and come to an agreement on the value of the marital home. And so the one attorney and client had gone and gotten an appraisal, and then they provided that to the other attorney and the other spouse. Well, turns out that this whole appraisal was totally botched, and it didn't take a rocket scientist to see that there were definitely errors in that appraisal. However, the appraiser was not going to budge on what they had done, and felt like they could justify these things. So details, I get into the weeds. But anyway, so they had paid for this appraisal, but now the other spouse is now engaging an appraiser to come back to try to basically null out the other appraisal. Where if you take a step back, and instead of taking money and putting it towards another appraisal, well, if everybody in that, the one attorney on this side, the other attorney, and then both of the spouses can say, this isn't right. Well, use that as a base and then figure out the third way, because now you're going to pay another appraiser to go and do an appraisal, a second appraisal, where it's likely that attorneys are going to go back and forth in this situation because it's litigated, and they're going to fight and dig their heels in. Where if you could choose to sit down and say, okay, here's the appraisal we have, here's where we understand it to be botched, what amount do we want to add to that? Instead of having somebody else now go out, we're spending our family's resources to double this up where let's just find a third way. So those are the times where I feel like it's the emotions get the best of us, where we're not looking at it from a logical standpoint of there's agreement somewhere. And that agreement was that this isn't an accurate appraisal. It doesn't feel accurate to any of us. Okay, well, let's work from there and save the money on an additional appraisal and and keep moving forward.
I appreciate this story so much as a what not to do story. And I think that a lot of folks, what we're told is that divorce is a legal event, whereas we really see it as a family event with a legal component. But there are times when we need to, from the beginning, involve lawyers in a really contested or litigated process. And we're going to talk more about some other options. But in this case, what I imagine is that those lawyers begin to do what they are trained to do and very good at, which is to fight for their client
Yeah,
at the peril sometimes of the client's resources.
right.
And if they could have just sat down and said, well, we know what houses are selling for in our neighborhood, and we know the value, and we know what we've put in it. So we can probably find what you call the third way. It's that middle path. It's that mediated process. And I think that our divorcing families, those spouses sometimes think, well, we're not in charge of our divorce. Our lawyers are in charge of our divorce. Claim your process and own it. And don't let your lawyers hijack the journey. Because even that second appraisal at, I don't know, $500, $800, like that's summer camp for your child. That's soccer all season long. That's back to school clothes. They're going to go somewhere other than your family when you get into that battle.
Well, not only the financials of the appraisal, but then the continued conversation of the back and forth between the attorneys of, well, do we take both of these and then average them? Like, there's so many times where I think if left to the spouse or the co-parents to make some of these decisions, they're able to get to a logical place. They just need guardrails and supports to navigate that conversation. And I never want it to come across as though I don't believe in attorneys. I do. I think that they're critical and they have a place. I think where we have this misunderstanding or a disconnect is this language of like, go get a pit bull, go fight tooth and nail. Nobody wins in that situation. No one wins. And so finding the attorney or finding the method in which you feel like you have a voice and you're part of the decision-making process, but where it's done in a forward-thinking, productive manner, to where it's like there's some of these embedded conflicts of interest of where if you think about an attorney and having that ongoing conflict, it's almost like seek out the options where it's a flat fee divorce, because they're not in this conflict of, everybody's looking at the same objective. Get this settled because we want to settle it, not keep people in conflict because
You
it's
make more money.
hours. And I don't think that that's just you can't make a blanket statement that that's just what attorneys do. That's not fair. However, there are attorneys that is, they see conflict, they see dollars, and finding the good ones is critical, because I had been working with somebody in another capacity where they had been going through divorce since 2019. We're in 2024, folks. Like, to be that feels like that shouldn't be legal.
Right. That's
So,
malpractice.
I mean,
You're
yeah,
not doing your job
because
if we've got people that long into their
yeah, I mean, just aside from the financial distress, the mental distress that you're having to carry for that duration of time is just really unfathomable. But so I think just being able to make people aware that there are those third way options, and letting your attorney know if that's the route that you're going. I like the approach of a third way. It doesn't have to be that we win all the time. Like I'm flexible on some things. Here's where I'm flexible. Or attorney, here's where I'm not flexible. And I think that those are skill sets too that good mediators have, that what we really pride ourselves upon with our divorce process that we help folks go through is really figuring out where are you flexible, and where does it feel like you get a little bit more stuck, and we can work with that.
We mentioned in your introduction that you are also trained as a neutral in the collaborative process. This might be a new phrase, a new idea that someone is hearing today for the first time as one of the options on the divorce multiple choice, right? We often see like option A, lawyer up and destroy. Option B, make sure your children are in the middle and have to have lots of therapy. Option C, everyone loses all their money by the end. Or D, none of the above. And working through parent team with a divorce coach in the collaborative divorce process is that D, none of the above, that we can just put our focus back on restructuring the family, not being stuck in the going through divorce for years, just be divorced and then learn how to be a really well adjusted family in this new chapter. So tell us a little bit about the collaborative divorce process, and as a CDFA inside that, what you've noticed.
Yeah. So I wish that the marketing on collaborative law, I think, is poor in that, people feel like, well, I can't be kumbaya with my co-parent and navigate this in a collaborative way. Are you crazy? Well, so what they should really call this process is multidisciplinary support system for divorce. And why is because basically, if you think about this process, each person, each client has an attorney that's their advocate. And within that process, too, you get a financial neutral and you get mental health neutral in most models. I say that because in some parts of the country, well, in some parts of the world, really, you've got a slightly different model, but I'm going to speak to this one because it's the one I feel most convicted about. So you've got those two neutrals, and then you've got each have your attorney. And what we're doing is we're really working in conjunction to hear what the interests and goals are of the parties and be able to get to check as many interests and goals as we can for that particular family. And so it's different in that we're not negotiating back and forth. What we're doing is we're saying the conversation might sound like this. I really have an interest of keeping the family home for the next 3 years. That interest comes from wanting the kids to be able to stay in the same school. That feels like a really important piece for how we navigate this. Okay, great. So we can take that into account when we're looking and brainstorming settlement options that are going to work. Does this settlement option check that ability to have them remain in that house for 3 years? Or how can we get creative to accomplish that? Instead of, well, if you're taking the house, then I'm going to take this. Those aren't the things that's not the language you're going to hear. You're going to hear us redirecting as professionals and neutrals saying, I'm hearing that the 401k is really important to you. Tell us more about why that particular account feels really important, because it's just, how we're made up as humans. A lot of us need to have the understanding of the why behind something. And when we have the why, it makes it, I don't want to say easier, but if you can understand why something's important to the other person, it may get you to a place of, wow, I can really hear that that's an important piece. And they've shown me some flexibility over here about something that felt really important to me. And it's just such a better outcome for everybody because they feel really part of what we're coming up with as the ultimate settlement.
Mhm.
So it's just, Yeah, it's a
I just
beautiful,
wanted to highlight a unique part of the collaborative process is that those lawyers and those neutrals always sit down together with the clients.
yeah,
It's not this shuttled mediation where you're not at the table with your soon to be former spouse. You are all at the table and you have someone in your corner, those legal advisors. But like in your role, you're not advising. You're what I like to call, on a good day, I'm a really excellent sheepdog. I'm helping to guide you, but you need to go on your own feet to your desired destination. But I'm going to keep you safe along the way. And I think those neutrals really play that role of information. So you can think about tax treatment. So you can think about real estate and why you don't want to sell that house right now or refinance it. Or can we find a third way for you both to stay on the mortgage until finances
right.
and interest rates go down, right? All of those sorts of things that, again, why would any of us normal folk know this? We
No, yeah.
do
I
need a
mean,
good, smart sheepdog to keep us on the path.
for sure. I'm gonna, Karen, I'm gonna
Yep.
adjust. I'm so sorry about this
I
sun.
see you chasing the sun.
And I shouldn't complain about the sun, but that also is just so.
It's great. We'll just,
But then I also.
so I'm curious, Jen, you live in both of these worlds as a neutral CDFA in the collaborative process, but then you also just provide CDFA and financial advising services to families. How are those different and how should clients understand the differences in those things?
Yeah, I think it's such a helpful question too, because I mean, it depends on how I am using that credential. An attorney will reach out to me and say, I'm representing the party that has less financial background or has always been kind of in the weeds or just wasn't engaged as much on the finances and they're feeling a little bit behind the eight ball. Can you do some work with them and educating them around what makes up the marital estate? Or and answer any financial questions that they have. And so in that role, I'm really being an educator and helping to try to bring them up to speed on giving them that overview of what, they feel confused by, or they don't trust their former partner to share with them all the things that they do have, and it just doesn't feel appropriate for them to discuss it. So that's another way that I'm utilizing my skill set. I think what something that's been a bit challenging for myself is as not only an advisor for wealth management in that hat, but also just the way my mind works. I want to be the problem solver where I've like had to start asking the question, do you need a listening ear or are you looking for solutions? Because I just go into solve mode. So where it's different, when I'm working in the collaborative space, I'm not to solve those problems. And in fact, I might have ideas that I want to bring out, but I have to present them in a way of asking questions to get the clients to really be thinking of the idea. It's like the kid making their bed or cleaning their room. When it's their idea, it's so much better. But when you tell them to go do it, just is not, it's similar to that. And so taking my advisory hat off and like my problem solver and putting my neutral and my question asking hat and my curiosity hat to identify where that flexibility is a shift that is really, and probably why I love this work, because it really keeps me on my toes.
Yes. Well, we are chatting today with Jen Schimbeno. She is a certified divorce financial analyst, over a decade of experience in financial planning with a focus on supporting individuals, businesses, families, and really why she is here today, in addition to those credentials, is she is the co-founder of Parent Team, an online resource and course for co-parents and helping them navigate and keeping their kids out of the middle. We're going to come back from our break and dig in a little deeper with Jen today. Be sure to stay tuned for more resources and opportunities of learning. I'm Karen McNenny, your Good Divorce Coach. Stay with me.
Are you thinking about getting divorced? Before you call a lawyer, call the Good Divorce Coach, Karen McNenny, a certified divorce counselor, co-parenting specialist, and mediator. Karen's signature Good Divorce experience will guide you through your divorce journey, from the day you make that difficult decision to the day the decree is signed, all for a predictable fee. The Good Divorce Coach will teach you and your partner how to get divorced and be divorced with less conflict and less debt. Visit thegooddivorcecoach.com to get in touch with Karen.
Now, back to the show with Karen.
Welcome back to the Good Divorce Show. I am your Good Divorce Coach, Karen McNenny. Joining me today, Jen Schimbeno, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, co-founder of Parent Team, and really a pioneer in the field of doing divorce differently. And there is a lot of pioneers starting to show up on the scene, which I am happy to say. I'm interviewing many of them here on the Good Divorce Show. You and your partner, Brandon, are certainly a part of that. But I have to ask the question, Jen, why would you want to spend all this time talking to divorced people? They're depressed, they're angry, they're hurt, they're discombobulated. It can be a really hard time for the people going through divorce, and yet you've chosen to walk that path with families. What brought you to the work and what keeps you?
Yeah, I think that life has a funny way of working itself out, in that I didn't seek this work, but once I was introduced and once I was submerged in it, one, I felt so fortunate for the people that I was getting to surround myself with by way of the different professionals. And I think you can grow so much through that. And so that was a big like hook in the first place. It's like, I'll try this on, if there's enough people asking me, would you do this work? Then they must think I might be halfway decent at it, and let's see what happens. Well, then pick my head up 6 years later in this specific niche. And what keeps me here is it's a combination of things. And I think about the kids that we're helping these parents. And even like when we did our filming of our parent team course, I got so choked up at the end because it's these kids that have no idea of the work that their parents are doing and the methods that they're choosing to go through this process that will help them for years, and preventing them from having these things that they're going to have to unpack at the therapist's office 15 years down the road. And so when days are really hard and I find myself just really feeling discouraged, or that's what I think about. And I think about too some of the most beautiful situations where these co-parents are having conversations and making settlement agreements, and I'm holding back tears because of the generosity that they're showing one another. And it's even sometimes my blind optimism where then I quiet that voice where I almost want to say out loud, are you sure you guys want to do this? Like you are displaying more love than I see in some of the couples that are still married and going down this road. Because I think there are these things that happen where there's a recent case that I was working on where there was just such a tremendous amount of generosity displayed and done by way of this husband giving to his wife and explaining why he was doing it and validating what she has provided in him, the confidence that she has given him by being his sidekick. And he said, if I don't have you as at least part of this, I'm scared of what I'll do without you as my sidekick. And I had to like take deep breaths of like, hold it together. You're the professional in the room, but these pieces of generosity that can come through, her response being, I'm so thankful to that. And it's also hard because it's something that I've wanted to hear for so long, and I'm finally hearing it. And so you wonder, like, does he wish that he would have said that sooner? Or why couldn't he have said that sooner? Or did he say it sooner and she wasn't able to hear it? And so, and I just think this work really makes you think about relationships from such a deeper level, how we can all be better in the ways that we show up in our relationships. And this work keeps me constantly learning, constantly on my toes. And it's never the same thing twice. I mean, one time it can be a fight over a Mini Cooper, like a Mini Cooper. And then the next one, it's like, there are no fights. And you're like, well, wait, so what? You guys are what? So they're just as so, it's never, and that's what keeps it fascinating. And that's what keeps me wanting to do this, and the impacts that we're making. I mean, fiscally too, because I think about how much divorce can cost people, and it makes my stomach churn. And so when we're working with these couples that are choosing to go at more of a fixed, like a flat fee divorce, I'm like celebrating because I'm seeing in my head the dollar signs that are being kept and retained for family resources, that they're not spending triple, quadruple that amount in, duking it out in a courtroom.
I think one of the paradigm shifts that I certainly am trying to amplify is that divorce exists to improve the relationship between co-parents. We don't ever talk about that, right? If you want to stay in a bad, crappy marriage, stay in your bad, crappy marriage. The reason we lean into divorce is because something needs to get better. Yes. And for those couples who are already on fire, litigating shark, right? We got to go to war. My message to you is you have stayed too long.
Yeah.
We sometimes just stay in that truth too long, and we make it a big hot mess so we can justify the departure. Whereas if we leaned into the divorce process, well, there was still that, that hint and that sense of love and connection that brought us together, that our children were made for love, but we see that this marriage is complete. So let's, as you all use the language, let's reconstruct, right? I say, your marriage might be done, but your relationship is not done ever. We're going to renovate your relationship.
Totally. I love that.
Across these two homes, so that forever relationship that you share through your DNA lives inside your children and your grandchildren and maybe your great grandbabies, like you don't have to destroy it. We're here to help you preserve what needs to be kept.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you talked a little bit about this generosity. What else comes to mind when you think about the good divorce experience, the divorce with dignity? What is different about those individuals that they bring to the table, that they're willing to do, that you see as best practices amongst the folks, like speaking to the heart of our listeners?
It's the framework. I mean, if you think about the actual process of litigation, what of that framework feels like there would be any ounce of having any generosity extended? The framework just simply is not there. The framework is framed around an aha, gotcha, or I'm gonna figure out like where's this missing, or where did you not do your due diligence? No, like the framework is set out to fail these families.
Yes.
And
yes.
so if nothing else, if you just think about the framework that you're in within this process, do the people around you feel like they have the same goals in the sense that they want to come to a solution? Does it feel like there's proactive approach and exploring flexibility in third ways? Those are the processes that are going to have those glimmers of generosity or kindness confetti come out, where it's not that you're giving in, it's that you're simply demonstrating where you have flexibility, because your desire is not to be right, it's not to win. It's to have everybody feel like, okay, this is a closing of a chapter and we're all going to be okay.
Yes. Oh, I love kindness confetti.
Yeah.
And people don't even know that's an option. And again, I guess I would say it this way: how we begin is often how we end. And if at all possible, call a coach, call a collaborative team, call anyone before a lawyer
Totally.
is going to immediately put you on adversarial sides. Now, we know sometimes that is what families need, and there might be abuse, there might be
100%.
money that's been laundered and stolen.
There's
And
always the asterisk.
that's right. But for many families, myself included, we just couldn't be married anymore. And we are much better co-parents across two homes. I think our children would agree. And we just needed to get unmarried, but
Yeah,
not destroy our family and come out worse than we were going in.
totally. And if
That,
you feel in that destructive mind frame and you're like, yeah, but I'm too pissed off to do any of what you're talking about, and I'm too pissed off to not get a bulldog, take a pause
yes,
and figure out where is that rooted, get the coach, talk to, get the resources, or explore like conscious uncoupling. It's a beautiful process. It's get yourself in a frame of mind where you're not out for blood, you're not out for the pit bull, because I believe that, again, asterisk aside of these other situations of DV or extenuating circumstances, people can get to that place of where they don't have the desire to be in the aha got you or advocated with alongside a pit bull or what have you. Get to that place. Do yourself a favor. Do your pocketbook a favor. For God's sake, do your kids a favor and do that work first
yes,
before you dive into, because guess what? You're going to come and arrive at that table with more competence, more confidence, a smoother and more strong foundation, and all aspects of your life are going to be thankful and grateful and better off because you chose to do that work first than doing it while going through that divorce process.
that's right. I might just capture that in a bumper sticker.
Yeah.
Family before finances.
Yeah.
Family before finances.
Yeah. Truly.
Well, clearly, Jen and I have a real passion about not only changing the way that families move through renovation and reconstruction, because we're here to tell you, you're still a family. You're 100% a family. And that's what we're really trying to preserve through this pioneering work. You are just now co-parenting across two homes, which has its own set of challenges. And folks like Parent Team, the Good Divorce Experience, we're here to help you learn the tools of how to be a really high functioning, stable, happy family across two homes. And I always say, the legal world will help you get divorced, but they don't help you know how to be divorced. And this legal process, in many ways, I think has hijacked the divorce experience and is putting a lot of families financially behind when we're already moving from a two-income household often to a one-income household. Like, it's hard enough. I feel like you might have some opinions about this as well, Jen.
Yeah, I think it is so difficult because so many times, even if you ask an intact family, do you feel like you have enough as far as financial means to hit all of your goals? 90% of people will answer no. They're behind the eight ball. So if you are taking what else already feels like they're behind the eight ball, and now you're splitting that and operating two households, I mean, it just exasperates that feeling. So being able to preserve those resources to the extent that we can, which often I think we do and can, I think there's this really cool shift where individuals aren't necessarily going to the attorney first when they're looking at going the route of divorce. And so I think what that does is it really sheds light on, what are these different options? And not to say that an attorney wouldn't shed light on these options, but again, the framework and how that's communicated and how you're exploring those different methods, I think really matters. And so I love that there are so many different divorce coaches and people are talking to their therapists, and therapists are becoming more educated about these different means so that we can do things in these more third way methods and really preserve more of the financial means for the families, like the college funds and the things that you want to do, rather than duking it out and dragging it out.
And just writing big checks to lawyers all the time and not getting anywhere. We spoke with a potential client who said, I'm $40,000 in and I'm still not divorced. That is not appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, what?
Help. So the parent team, I want to come back to some of what you and Brandon, and I also mentioned Brandon was a guest in season 1.
Yeah,
Look at that. Your business partner and partner in the pioneering work. So we'll be sure that that episode is in the show notes as well. But the two of you are very committed to affordable divorce, right?
yeah.
We need some guidance. We need some support. All of your resources are really affordable. And this idea of divorce with dignity. Can you talk a little bit more about specifically what you and Brandon have chosen to do within your business model and how that's helping to reduce the expense of divorce for families?
Yeah, so we were seeing this trend where people were saying, I don't feel like we can do kitchen table and just figure everything out on our own. But we've decided we don't want to be led by attorneys. And so we kept on hearing that over and over again and feeling like between her expertise around parenting plan and really the research-based information and what it's telling us, my expertise from the financial lens, we're able to take those two components and really be the guardrails for these couples as they're doing this divorce with dignity route. And it's more, think of like a flat fee option where with if you're getting through these sessions with most of the couples that we've worked with have fit within that the sessions that we have within that program, and are coming up with the agreements to then either we're seeking the attorney that will just simply do a draft for the court documents for a very affordable fee, or they're self-filing in their county court with our agreements that we've provided. And it feels like such a success because not only, again, is that framework where we're setting them up to have this transition into a relationship with a foundation of better communication and better tools and resources, but to think about the tremendous amount of money that is saved. I mean, we've gotten a handful of families through around $3,600, and that feels really,
You
yeah.
can get someone divorced for $3,600.
Yeah, I mean, that's really about I would say most of them are coming in right around there. It might be a little bit more because they're navigating also the division of a business or a business buyout, or there's like something else that's a bit more complex that we're needing to navigate, but it's very rare that all of that's not completed within that process and for that cost. And so we feel strongly about this because people want supports, but they want to do it in a fiscally responsible way. And oftentimes people are coming to us because they're like, I don't want to wait 2 years or even 8 months with some of these counties and how long it's taking. And so we can do it in a way that we're not pushing anybody through the process, but we're doing it in a more timely fashion. And we've seen such a tremendous increase in that need and that desire that now we're needing to create and duplicate more of the professionals that are providing this piece. And so we're launching a training coming up in Q1 of 2025, where you'll have your basic mediation training, you'll get parenting plan expert trained, financial basics, so that we can train more people to be able to help do this work. And in a whole nother layer of this too, we've had nonprofits that are going to be sending individuals to this training so that families in lower socioeconomic groups are able to access these resources too, which I'm so thankful for. I mean, this shouldn't be a luxury. This should be families deserve the support.
I've heard you say it. I believe it to be true. Families are starving. They're
Yeah.
so hungry for a different path. And listeners, if you're anything like me, I stayed paralyzed in my truth to renovate my own marriage because the only option that was on the table was to lawyer up, get in a battle with someone who I chose to marry and have children with, and end up with less, and then be lifelong enemies with the father of my children. I could not see my way down that path. So the choice was to stay until it occurred to me we can do this differently. So in many ways, I built the business that I wanted
Yeah.
14 years ago, that I was looking for this support.
Yeah.
And Brandon have built a business to provide the support in a really affordable, comprehensive, easy to understand, and self-guided, if people so choose, or to call in
Yeah.
collaboratively minded professionals.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Remind us again, Jen, where to find these resources and what to watch for when
Yeah.
it comes to your team.
Absolutely. So our website is just www.parentteam.com, PARENTTEA.com. And dive in. You'll find resources for professionals where we're coming alongside other people in this space and helping to enhance the impact that we're collectively making in these families' lives. Parents can find helpful resources. Educators, teachers are utilizing our resources. And that's the other thing that's totally bananas, is that we're looking at what type of resources, teachers have and how to support these kids in two homes. And we need to do better. Educators, we're gunning for doing better. But so, yeah, I mean, they can check that all out there. And then our Instagram, we've got a pretty robust, we took a little hiatus and now we're back in action, but people have just said how helpful, reminders or just quick language or reframes and what they find from our Instagrams. If you are on social media, and it's just at Parent Team, and a bunch of free content that I think you'll find inspirational, helpful, and just kind of plug and play when you're like, I don't feel like I can do this yet. Well, lean on us, and before you know it, it'll just become more natural.
Yes. And once again, this Parent Team workbook, Keeping Your Kids Out of the Middle, you purchase really reasonably for you and your co-parent. There are self-guided videos, worksheets to help you along the way. Chatting today with Jen Schimbeno of Parent Team, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, mom, and pioneer in the new space of how we can do divorce differently. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Good Divorce
Thank
Show.
you. No, it's truly a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And remember, listeners, everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
Thanks for listening. Do you have questions or thoughts about this week's episode? Let us know by following the Good Divorce Coach on Facebook and Instagram at Good Divorce Coach, and leave a comment. And be sure to tune in every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific or listen anytime wherever you get your podcasts.